Back now with breaking news. Senator John McCain sadly has been diagnosed with brain cancer. We're all praying for him, and so is President Trump. The president put out a statement tonight. Senator McCain, he said, has always been a fighter. Melania and I send our thoughts and prayers. Get well soon. Let's now bring in Fox News medical correspondent Dr. Mark Siegel. He joins us here at the table with the five. Dr. Siegel, thanks for rushing over.
Yeah.
The quick question is, can he survive this? Jimmy Carter, the former president, had brain cancer, is said to be cancer-free now. Could we see the same thing with Senator McCain?
I have to be honest with you, Juan, the type of brain cancer we're talking about here, a primary brain cancer, it tends to infiltrate the tissues, and it's very hard to get it out. So they're going to try with radiation, they're going to try with chemotherapy. That's the standard. As President Trump said, Senator McCain is a fighter. I believe deeply that courage plays a role in fighting, especially him, with what he's been through as a war hero. That will play a role. There's an experimental vaccine that they use for certain proteins in the cancer. That might be a possibility. They do that at Duke. I'm sure all of these things will be explored. But I have to tell you, this is a really, really tough one.
Is there new technology that has been sort of deployed? There's been so many cancer treatment advancements. We just heard about one last week, and Martha McCallum actually had the young girl that was cured of leukemia with this sort of not experimental treatment. Well, I guess it was experimental, and now it's just been approved by the FDA. Is that what you're talking about in terms of what this vaccine?
Dana, there's two things. First of all, the imaging of the brain has improved dramatically. Last year, I went to Detroit, and I found this new imaging where they can find exactly how deep into the brain this cancer goes. That helps them know how to get it out. And the second thing I'm talking about is this new experimental vaccine they're using where they look for a protein that's abnormal on the brain, and then they target it with a vaccine.
Right.
And that's caused cures in some cases, rarely. Right. We'd be looking for that kind of thing.
Dr. Siegel, where are we in terms of the fight against cancer in America? We have so much money here in this country. Are we doing enough right now to fight this horrific disease? What more can be done?
You know, we're turning a corner on this. We're into immunotherapies now, just this past week, where you take cells out of the body, re-engineer them, and program them almost like a robot to fight cancer cells, and then reinsert them. That's showing a tremendous response. That hasn't been used yet in this kind of a cancer, but it's been showing tremendous potential with leukemias and melanomas, like Juan was talking about, Jimmy Carter's melanoma. We're starting to turn a corner.
Doctor, can I...
go ahead, Lisa.
I was going to ask, so we know Senator McCain, there's no stronger fighter than him, and he's got the support of Meghan and the rest of his loving family.
Who we love, yeah.
What are the next steps for the senator in this fight?
Well, the next steps are going to be a chemotherapy called temozolomide. That's standard. We've been given that since the 80s, and radiation. And I think where you're going with this is that, you know, that really kind of knocks you back. And I would suspect, again, I can't say this for sure, given what a fighter he is, that he might take some time off at this point.
At 80 years old, yes, it's called glioblastoma, I guess. That's so correct.
That's the supportive cells of the brain.
And they talk about it being two different types, one a little bit more aggressive than the other. There's sometimes when people have cancer, they use the term, it's not curable but treatable, and a lot of people live their lives for years as they go through the treatment. Can you see a scenario like that?
I certainly hope so, but that again would be a small percentage of cases with this type of cancer because of the way it infiltrates. Maybe one of these experimental treatments will be turned to, or maybe he'll be a super responder. And again, he has that courage. So if anyone's going to beat this, it's him.
What is the Mayo Clinic's reputation in Phoenix for this? Do you foresee him being transferred somewhere else?
You know, I actually was out there in 2008 and looked through 1,100 pages of his records, and I thought for his melanoma, I thought he got stellar treatment out there. It's got a very good reputation, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him going to the top couple of cancer centers in the country. I mentioned Duke, there's also Anderson. There's a bunch of places he might end up trying if the standard therapy doesn't work. He's going to start with the standard therapy, and that's the right thing.
Dr. Siegel, I'm just going to jump in here because there's a new statement from former President Bush 41. It says, quote, "The Hanoi Hilton couldn't break John McCain's spirit many years ago. So Barbara and I know with confidence he and his family will meet this latest battle in his singular life of service with courage and determination," end quote. I think that, you know, to me, you hear all of these statements. I'm just in awe of his life, his service to our great country. But I do think that given what you're describing and the chemo especially, it's hard to imagine that he's going to continue working.
I would think that. Again, if anyone would try, it would be him. But this type of chemo and the way it knocks you out, I don't expect him to come back right away. But President Bush 41 is right. I truly believe that the courage that's involved in here and the fight that he would show is going to play a role. This is going to be the toughest fight of his life, and most people don't win this.
Are there more diagnoses of brain cancer? Because even Joe Biden's son, who passed away, I believe, like he had cancer. I mean, I just wonder if are we hearing more about it now? Obviously, there are many people all across America who are, in the world, who are dealing with loved ones that have brain tumors. And I just wonder, is it on the increase, or are we just discovering them more now?
It's on the increase, and we're discovering them more now.
Do we know why it's on the increase?
We don't know why. It may be due to more radiation in the air. You know, with Senator McCain, it's probably the case that it's related indirectly to his melanoma. In other words, there tends to be cancer families, genetic predispositions to cancer. But we are definitely finding them more now that we have MRI. Before we had MRI, we never caught this until the very end.
You know, it's amazing. I mean, I'm not saying that Democrats and Republicans divide the line when it comes to something like this, but it's amazing. He does go across party lines. He does reach the Democrats. One of his statements to reporters over the last 3 weeks is, I wish we did the health care thing on regular order. And so many Democrats feel as though he almost flipped parties, including Joe Biden. And he's issued a statement, too. He says, John and I have been friends for 40 years. He's gotten through so much difficulty with so much grace. He is strong, and he will beat this. And, of course, his son just succumbed to brain cancer.
And Vice President Biden also is he's part of that moonshot, which is, as Jesse was suggesting, how close are we to being able to cure cancer, and that the moonshot is a part of trying to get the ball advanced farther down the field.
And it's part of this immunotherapy idea that we were just talking about. That's part of the moonshot. That's part of the Cures for Cancer Act that was just passed. That's a big role. That's playing a big role here. And there are experimental treatments for this that are showing response in some people. I believe he will be looking into that.
I think it's important to remember that John McCain is not a Republican, that John McCain's an American. And, you know, when we talk about, you know, the differences between health care, the differences between tax relief or anything like that, or the Russia controversy, John McCain is an American statesman. He's an American hero. It goes beyond party. So, you know, when things like this happen, I think it's all important for everybody to recognize that this man has dedicated his life to this country, not the party, but to the country. And I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude.
He's a father and a husband as well.
So I saw him the other day. We were at the baseball game, and he stood up with the troops when the troops were honored in the middle of the game. And you should have heard the outpouring of love. Washington, D.C., the baseball game, mostly Democratic crowd. Pure love for Senator McCain. Tonight, Senator, all of us here are praying for you and send our deepest love.